So in Bradenton, we've got this guy falsely arrested. In Sarasota, we've got this guy paid off, so he won't testify against the police, and the police chief suspended. We now move down the west coast of Florida about another 10 miles. We come to the city of Northport, the city with no port, which is another long story. We'll have to tell you about that sometime. But anyway, here in Northport, Chief Terry Lewis, who's an ex-Sarasota County sheriff, he got into a mess in the fact that one of his officers pulled over a woman with two kids in the car, and she had a suspended driver's license. And he told her if she got back in the car with the kids and drove away, he was going to throw her in jail. So he left her standing alongside the vehicle with her two kids and went home. This was all recorded on the officer's patrol car video camera. And
it's
Chief,
illegal.
you know, it's not only illegal, it's immoral, illicit. And how would you like your wife and kids left along the road by a police officer who's supposed to be there to help and protect, and puts her in a position which we're going to get into with the next instance here, and leaves her susceptible to God only knows what. So he destroyed the videotapes, but since he apologized, that made it all right. It didn't go any further than that. Everything's all good and guacamole here, except there's some of us that don't think that this is right. Then on top of it, Dan Rush, who was an officer on the Northport PD, he just had to step down and resign his position because he was using drugs while on duty. Went and testified a couple of times that he wasn't, and then copped to the plea, and he isn't with the police anymore, but the chief of police is still there, and we have a lot of other complaints about the Northport Police Department, but we don't want to dwell on the specifics. The point that we're making is this malfeasance of duty is along the whole west coast of Florida. Now, in Port Charlotte, which is about 6 miles south of here, we had a terrible incident that took place some time ago where a woman was kidnapped, taken, killed, and this is the gentleman that was responsible for this. He's since been tried and convicted. The whole problem was when the 911 tapes were taken, the 911 calls were made in order to apprehend and get this guy arrested. The 911 dispatcher got all mixed up. The whole thing got screwed up in transition. This gentleman, and I use that term very loosely, killed this lady, and he has since been tried and convicted. More police malfeasance in the line of duty. We then go to Englewood. Here we have this gentleman, an 80-year-old retired Army veteran. He was riding on the sidewalk in a little electric cart, not a golf cart, a little electric cart. And first one sheriff, then 3 sheriffs, 3 patrol cars stopped him, arrested him, gave him a ticket for riding on the sidewalk with a motorized vehicle. Now, the current Sarasota County Sheriff, Tom Knight, he said that this happened because there's a problem with the allocations of funds and budgets are tight. But they had enough money to be able to put 3 officers on an 80-year-old man riding on the sidewalk on, I don't know, how do you justify this? The Herald Tribune got into this at great length, and the paper actually made a laughingstock of the police department. Now, this is the kind of publicity that we don't need. This is what drives the tourists away. This is what puts this bad reputation with the west coast of Florida is unfortunately getting. And who's doing this? Our elected officials. So, Herbert Jean in Englewood, arrested, riding around. What a traversity. Well, Tom Knight, I don't know what to say, Tom. But I'm not happy about this, and it's really unfortunate you got a budget shortfall, but that's not my problem. The budget shortfall is caused by other things. Now, we not only have, what do we got here, Mr. Bailey?
Eric Ernst, one of the columnists for the Herald Tribune, put out an article, and it's called "Common Sense Absent in Desperado Ticketing." That was the 80-year-old man that they busted for riding his scooter on the sidewalk. Problem is with the law is that there's a real controversy. You can't ride it in the street, and you can't ride it on the sidewalk. So, you tell me what he's supposed to ride the thing in the air. I mean, it ain't equipped with a propeller.
Well, maybe instead of sending emails illegally to each other back and forth, our elected representatives should be addressing the real issues, which is the incongruities of the laws which these other politicians pass, not paying any attention to what's going on.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just, where is common sense? Where is the fact that when you have something that happens, you address it in the manner? This gentleman that was ticketed with the bike, why wasn't he given a warning ticket? Why wasn't he given a warning ticket?
Well, one of the things that I've been finding lately is that a lot of the issues that have come up, and this has been on the radio, TV, etc., about the fees. In other words, instead of a normal licensing fee of $25, it's $50. The reason that they doubled and tripled all of these things, Northport's a good example. They bumped the property tax to the maximum. The ideology here being that they've got to have the money and you're legally obligated to have to pay it. Okay, that's all well and good, except that look at what we got. We have, in essence, they call it a depression, or I would call it a depression. They call it a recession. And under these kinds of pressures, they have to keep their little moneymaker running. That's my opinion of it.
I couldn't agree more, and they seem to be increasing all the user fees, the tax fees,
Yep.
instead of, in a time of an economic holocaust, cutting their own salaries, reducing their expenses. What they do is they put an additional burden on the people here, and the people here on the west coast of Florida that are just barely making it now are abandoning their houses. They're
Right.
taking their kids. They're going back up north. They can't stay here. And yet this is supposedly a business-friendly environment. If you talk to the Chamber of Commerces that spend all this money putting out this kind of baloney, they're doing the right thing. Well, why don't they come talk to us? We're the ones that pay the taxes. We're the citizens. And this is the reason for the Church of the Muzzle Flash. We have a voice now. We don't have a voice in the papers. We don't have any television stations here. We have something here now that's unique. And we need the support of the people. We're a nation of doers. We accept donations. And if you think what we're doing here is right, please get in touch with us. We can always use cash. Now, Tom Knight we're talking about, right? Now, Tom Knight is the current sheriff of Sarasota County. He was only recently, I think he was appointed because the previous sheriff, a guy by the name of Bill Bockwell, he resigned a year ago and stepped down in order to be able to get out of the line of fire of the fact that we have been looking for some time to build a new prison here. We don't have enough people to lock up, or enough facilities to keep the number of people that we need locked up to guarantee the income that the politicians need in order to be able to function, or so they tell us. So Mr. Bockwell was negotiating with several corporations in order to build and manage a new prison facility. Unfortunately, he was taking kickbacks. Now, this was 3 months ago or 4 months ago. This came out in the paper that old Bill had his hand in the till. Bill's hand in the till. Let's quote that.
Okay.
Okay? And Mr. Knight was supposed to be investigating this, and then it was turned over to an outside source, and that's kind of hanging in the fire. But we've got a sheriff that has his deputies out shaking down 80-year-old veterans who replaced another sheriff who was taking kickbacks. Now, what's this all about? Well, if that were the end of the story, it would be the end of the story, but it's not the end of the story, because Bill Bockwell is a resident of the Warm Mineral Spring.